Welcome to the Advancing Innovation in Adult Education podcast series, funded by the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education at the U.S. Department of Education. In this interview, Drew Gamet, the director of the South Bay Adult School in Redondo Beach, California, will discuss the Career Pathways program at South Bay Adult School with a former student, Adrian De Leon. We will also hear from El Camino College's Community Advancement and Business Training Center Dean, Jose Anaya, and Donald McKinzie, Department Manager of Mechanical Manufacturing and Engineering at Northrop Grumman Aerospace Systems, where Adrian now works. Career Pathways was recognized by Advancing Innovation as an innovative approach for integrated education and training programs, known as IET programs, which enable adult learners to develop their foundational skills and workforce preparation skills through occupational training that leads to educational and career advancement. The Career Pathways program prepares adult learners to complete one of 5 career pathway programs at El Camino College, one of South Bay Adult School's partners within the South Bay Adult Education Consortium.
My name is Drew Gamet. I'm the director at the South Bay Adult School in Redondo Beach, California. And with me here today, Jose, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Jose Anaya. I'm the Dean of Community Advancement at El Camino College in Torrance, California.
And one of our most incredible alumnists, Adrian De Leon. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Adrian De Leon. I am a student at Camino College, and I am working at Northrop Grumman right now.
Thank you guys all for having a conversation today. Really what we want to do is, Adrian, is talk about your story and your journey and maybe add a little bit on how we were able to help. Let's start back at the beginning of your story. What was the thing that really drove you to want to go back to school in the first place?
First thing, I got a stroke 2013 and I lost my speech. I had to read, had to write. It took a long time to recover. I still working on that too. This is my third time that I go back to school. First, in my country, I studied for auto mechanic. And then when I came to the United States, I was working as auto mechanic. And then I have a lower back injury. So after that, I decided to study for dental technician. And then a couple of years working as a dental technician, I got a stroke. It was when I lost everything. I couldn't move my right side or my body. So one day I decided, what can I do? What else can I do? I saw my kids, my wife, my daughter was going to university. My son was about to go to university. I say, hey, I need to do something. They need me. My wife need me. So I pushed myself. I went to school. I didn't want to go to school because at the beginning, for me, it was hard to talk, hard to have a conversation because I had aphasia. The stroke gave me aphasia, and the aphasia is when you start stuttering, when you get nervous or you are tired, you start stuttering. So some kind of fear coming to my life through a stroke. So I had to go over that fear and confront life. So I went to school. And my idea was to get something like a real estate. It was in my mind, okay, I want to do something like a real estate. And one day I was in a classroom and one of the counselors from Camino College came to the classroom and they were offering those pathways as machinists, construction, child development. My teacher, the professor, told me, go for it. He pushed me. And I decided to take classes at Camino College.
So, Jose, this is something that I feel like we hear a lot from students. You don't know what you don't know. Can you talk a little bit about, as our partnership has developed, the importance of dealing with this issue of transition and of really communicating out what those programs are?
So when the partnership formed through legislation that community colleges would work with adult schools to create transition programs, we entered into this agreement to develop a career pathway for adult school students that can lead to open jobs in the economy. And so that's when we started looking at child development, machining, construction, Cisco networking, EMT, technician. But the idea was to make sure that we had the support for students like Adrian in ESL and basic skills, but more importantly, that they felt supported through a seamless transition to El Camino College. So that's why we're really excited, because we're reaching students that typically we wouldn't see, kind of non-traditional students. And so I'm really excited to hear Adrian's story, because those are the kind of students that we want to touch through this program.
And you sort of touched on it a little bit, and I think this is just really an important part of what we're talking about with the program, which is we're not just taking students and putting them in like machining classes or just in construction classes. Not only is there an element of support there, obviously us as an adult school are sending our instructor to be in a classroom, in a class with students while they're taking the class, but there's an additional element there. We're teaching stuff that goes beyond the curriculum. And could you talk maybe a little bit about that, those soft skills that are part of the training?
Yeah, so basically, as you can well imagine, in dealing with industry and business, they want to know that not only do they have the technical skills, but they have the soft skills. You know, they show up on time. When they're there, they work. They know how to team build. They know how to communicate and present their ideas. Those kind of things are embedded in the curriculum that we teach to make sure that when the students graduate or go through the program and they go out and get a job, that they have the well-rounded skills that an employer is looking for. So, you know, it's interesting. We've been in interviews the last few days with Northrop Grumman, again, interviewing students into the co-op that Adrian went through. And that's the question they ask. Do you have the soft skills? Are you going to show up on time? And they do that with the students that haven't had the job experience, because the other students that have a more seasoned background, in other words, they've worked and they have work experience, they know those type of skills because they worked. Some newer students may not have those work readiness skills. So we make sure that that's part of the curriculum that we teach in the Career Pathways program.
Adrian, if I could turn back to you. Obviously, in the program, you know, we were providing these elements of support, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a program is easy. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you did to make it happen?
At the beginning, it was hard for me. I couldn't understand teacher. As English as a second language was another word for me. The only thing to continue is to have goals. If you don't have goals, you're not gonna make it. So in my case, as I said before, I have family, so they need my help. So my goal was my family. My goal was to do something else. I didn't want to stay just at home. Maybe receiving disability because I got a stroke. I want to do something else. So what I did was after school, I come home. I come to my books and maybe go to sleep at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. It wasn't easy. It was too difficult. Some occasions I came home, I came to cry. People need to listen to that. I came to cry because I said, you know what? I couldn't understand anything. The important thing is having goals.
Jose, if we could pivot back to how the relationship developed between El Camino and Northrop, how did that system kind of come into place so that students like Adrian, once they had completed their course of study and their certificates, how is that connection made?
Northrop Grumman is in our district. They manufacture satellites for NASA and also for the Defense Department. And so they're very complicated, and they use machinists, electricians, electromechanical technicians, testing technicians. And for them, it was very difficult to find the talent. The talent really didn't exist in our region. So they were having to recruit machinists from outside California. And as you can imagine, it's very expensive to relocate machinists to the South Bay. And so they came to us and they said, could we, in partnership, develop a pipeline of machinists to Northrop Grumman? And so we sat down and basically architected the pathway that our students would take the courses. Then they take a cooperative education during the summer where they would spend 8 weeks at Northrop Grumman learning the different career pathways. So we're talking machining, microelectronics, electromechanical testing. And in those 8 weeks, the students really understood the pathways that they could actually pursue at Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman called this an 8-week interview because those students that really shined would be selected and hired to go into an apprenticeship program that lasts 4 years. So this became a great program for Northrop Grumman because they home grow the talent through this partnership. And so when Adrian went through the program, he interviewed, got the co-op, and again, the co-op was no guarantee that you'd get a job. And so he shined, and they offered him an apprenticeship program, and he's now working at Northrop Grumman in this apprenticeship program. And I have to tell you, it was very difficult to basically get to that point, and it's really credit to Adrian's tenacity and skill level and going through the program and basically acquiring the skills that Northrop values.
Don McKinzie, what really was the driving force behind Northrop Grumman and the partnership with El Camino Community College? What were the conditions that made a partnership like that ripe to happen?
We've been partnering with El Camino College for decades. It's been something that I did early. I've been supporting this for over 20 years to help support our apprenticeship, and working with El Camino for such a long time, being on their advisories and other things, has helped El Camino identify the right candidates for the specific jobs that we have. The co-op specifically we put together so that the candidates for our apprenticeships would have an opportunity to come see what aerospace jobs are, what the opportunities are. The fact that we don't have a lot of vocational skills training anymore in educational pathways, I'll say K through 12, there isn't really an understanding of the opportunities of jobs. So working with El Camino and showing them what the industry needs are has helped them identify proper candidates for our work.
I'm sure for a company, not just a big company like Northrop, but a very well-known company, that you have lots of different sources where you find employees. What sets apart, though, the employees that you get when they come out of a program like this career pathway program that us here at the South Bay Adult School and El Camino have put together? What specifically are you seeing that you get from those particular types of employees or candidates?
Really, it's the success rates of the employees in their ability to perform, to learn the different tasks of what we're trying to do. So I'll say the complexities of the work maybe don't exist at the level we need them in the industry, where you really have to understand engineering requirements and translate that into performing specific manufacturing jobs. When they come in with a real understanding of what they're doing, they're a lot more successful. But also in the pathway itself, we have a lot of partnerships tied in with our El Camino College program, as well as, now feeding from the South Bay Adult School pathway. Those linkages of different components continue to provide the best candidates for the jobs. It's really finding the suitable candidates, El Camino understanding our requirements, and then finding those pathways that feed. And another thing that we get as a benefit out of this is the connections with South Bay Workforce Investment Board and some of the folks that are able to help us with grants and other things to help support our apprenticeship programs. Without those connections, I'd be kind of trying to do it on my own, which is how this started with me 20 years ago, and making the connections and then continuing these connections like the one we have now with South Bay Adult School Pathway. It really, allows us to target future employees and to areas that match their skills and passions. And that's really what drives a lot of this. I want people to be enjoying the work that they do, not going there and feeling that it's just a job. Understanding what they're building really, I think, helps fuel that passion. Something where you can actually see what you're building hardware for, what its mission is to support advancing human discovery. I think those things are important. And I think, getting the right people in the right places really helps us. And, the apprenticeships themselves, that is an accelerated program. So the machinist apprenticeship, which is a 4-year program, I'm trying to get people at least 10 years worth of understanding of the requirements and training. So it's pretty accelerated, but if you get the right people with the right passions, we're having great success from the program. But really, for me, when it comes to starting these programs, I think if you start at even at the community college level, to find out what programs are available based on your region and what industry you're in. I don't care if you're in the food industry or the garment industry. There are so many opportunities to help train workforce or even source their candidates. But the community colleges really have a lot of opportunity to reach out and find creative ways to help build your pipeline for the workforce and also sustain it. I think that the opportunities that you provide to these programs keeps the employees with you for the long term, so the investment really pays off.
So I got to ask then, Adrian, so what was that interview process like for you then? What was that like? And then what was it like coming out the other end hearing the good news?
So in December, they called me to join Northrop Grumman to this apprenticeship. So we are right now working every 2 months in every department for 2 years. We're going to be working 2 months in each department. When they called me to have an interview, I said, I didn't believe. I didn't believe I had an interview from Northrop Grumman. So that day, I dressed up myself, and there were like 5 managers on the table. I believe myself that they're going to call me. Even though maybe I can't speak that well English, I said, you know what? This is an opportunity that I have in life. So I had to believe myself. They told me, you know what? If we decide to call you, we're going to call you in 1 month. I said, you know what? I want to see you right there on the internship. I told them, I want to see you on the internship. So they laughed, and actually they called me. They called me for the internship. So I was right there doing the internship for 2 months. Every Friday we meet at ESL school. They teach you how you're going to do the interview, how to do the resume. So they help you. You are not alone.
And that's always been something that's been really, I think, important to the model, because I think one thing that can make some of these career pathway challenges hard for students is when you start adding extra things that students need to learn, and then it starts drawing out the timeline on a career pathway. It becomes too much, and for anyone. And so one of the things that we're really happy that we're able to do is when we have our ESL teacher in the classroom with the students, supporting their learning as it's going on in real time. But then at the same time, they're taking notes, they're keyed in on the syllabus and the information that's being transmitted. And then on those Friday meetings, the students can come to the South Bay Adult School in a smaller environment. It's an opportunity to work on those skills, to work on the content as well, so that you get a nice balance for the students, that they're able to move forward and progress with the content that they're learning, but also then acquire those skills at the same time.
So because Adrian is in the 2-year apprenticeship program, once he completes that, he's going to get a Department of Labor certificate that basically shows that he's completed that apprenticeship program for Northrop Grumman, and also one from the state of California. And so the apprenticeship program is both registered with the Department of Labor and also with the Department of Apprenticeship Standards here in California. In addition to that, we work with Northrop Grumman because many of their apprenticeship programs lead to an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. And so if Adrian really wanted to, he can continue his education to pursue an associate's degree or even a bachelor's degree. So some of our students that are in the apprenticeship program, 3 of them that I know of, are pursuing a bachelor's degree. They've graduated from Camino College and are now on to a 4-year university.
I feel that something great is kind for me and for my family and for people who choose to follow a better way to live. Because not just being at home, thinking about it or dreaming, it's going outside and doing something. Go to school. Starting go to school.
Thank you so much for listening to the Advancing Innovation podcast series. Please visit Advancing Innovation on the Links website at links.ed.gov under State Resources and then Federal Initiatives.